DC Comics are more than 80 years old now. Over that long period, the studio has published numerous characters. Some of these have stayed, and some just bit the dust. Heroes such as Superman and Batman were first published in 1938. Just the fact that they are still relevant to this day is a feat on its own. In today's video, we'll take a look at some of DC Comics' longest-running characters, starting with King Standish at number 10. King Standish was a crime-fighting hero who first appeared in the Flash comics, issue number 3, back in 1940. He was considered a criminal by both police and the underworld, but he was exactly the opposite of that. Standish was an illusionist at heart, often considered a master of disguise. But there have been many more characters in the DC universe that had a stronger grip on magic and were more powerful, leaving the king in the dark. Failing to gain mass popularity is also why the character was never fully developed. We know very little about King Standish's history or his origin story, but one thing that he had in common with Bruce Wayne is that he was also from a very wealthy background. King Standish has also collaborated with the Justice Society of America on numerous occasions, followed by Our Man at number 9. A few different characters have used the name of Our Man throughout DC history, but his first appearance was back in 1940 when he was spotted in Adventure Comics. This version of Our Man was actually Rex Tyler underneath. Tyler was a chemist who created a drug called Miraclo, which gave him superpowers. But the weirdest part was that these powers lasted only an hour. But it isn't just the drug that made Tyler cool and awesome. He's more than just that. Rex can actually see what would happen in the next 1 hour using the Our Man android's hourglass that he possesses. The guy can also travel through time, which of course interests fans of time travel. Now, Our Man has a lot of potential as a character, especially for live action. Although DC has made an attempt by putting him in the Legends of Tomorrow series, he falls flat for the most part. To understand how influential Our Man can be, we should look at the drug V24 in The Boys, which is more or less the same thing as Tyler's synthesis. Next, we have Johnny Thunder at 8. Johnny Thunder's origin story is similar to many other comic book heroes. The character has had many variants, but we'll talk about the first one, who was a resident of Earth 2. Johnny first appeared in the year 1940, and he got his powers by coming into contact with a genie called Thunderbolt. The powers that we're talking about were actually given to him by Thunderbolt, hence the name. Otherwise known as Johnny Thunder, he's a very silly character who isn't taken seriously outside of missions. This is unfortunate, given that he has a lot of untapped potential. Even though he's considered stupid and sometimes annoying, the Justice Society still keeps him around because he has a good heart and provides tons of comic relief. For number 7, the Spectre. The Spectre is another character that was first introduced in 1940. Like most other comic book characters, Spectre is also one name that's been adopted by different people over the years, Jim Corrigan being one of them. His origin story is way too similar to that of Batman, except that instead of his parents being murdered by thugs, it's himself dying at the hands of them, right in front of his girlfriend. Jim's spirit then returns to seek vengeance and takes the name of Spectre. Another thing that is inspired by Batman is Spectre's first costume, which had a similar color scheme to Batman's suit. Ever since, he's evolved a lot. For starters, he let go of his black and gray colors and adopted a dark green shade. In fact, he also made sure that the hood was a huge part of his overall identity. Up next, Hawkman at 6. For new fans of DC, their first introduction to Hawkman would probably be in the Black Adam, which is the second live-action appearance for the character. But Hawkman has been around for a while now. Like many others on this list, he too first appeared in 1940 in the Flash comics' first issue. Since then, he's been a major part of the comic universe and then migrated to animated series, before finally making an appearance in series such as Smallville and then in Black Adam. Carter Hall was introduced as an archaeologist who dies and then gets reincarnated by an Egyptian prince, who then takes the mantle of Hawkman. Even though he's rarely worked solo, his contributions to working with teams such as the JSA are worth noting. It's amazing that the character has remained popular for such a long time, that even in 2022, he's just as daring and just as relevant. At number 5, we have The Flash. The Flash has remained one of the most popular superheroes since his inception. Younger fans would most likely associate The Flash with Barry Allen, but the first ever Scarlet Speedster was actually Jay Garrick. Even though Barry Allen and Jay Garrick are two different arcs for The Flash, they both have a similar origin story, just like Alan Garrick also got his powers because of an experiment gone wrong at a laboratory. Flash is not considered a strong guy, but the fact that he could travel as fast as the speed of sound did give him some edge over other characters. But even these powers got an upgrade later on. Let's look at the Sandman at number 4. Finally, we move back a year to 1939. Wesley Dodds was first printed in New York World's Fair Comics. He got famous for his fashion sense because he liked wearing fedora hats and, weirdly, a gas mask. Sandman has recently come back into the news with Netflix's series. As much praise as the series has got, there are many fans that do not prefer the intensity of it. For those fans, we'd recommend you take a look at the original character. Sandman was a very mysterious character, to such an extent that only a few ever got to know who he was behind the mask. And oh, the gas mask that we were talking about at the beginning, there's a purpose behind it. Sandman used to love sedating criminals with sleeping gas. Given that it came out in 1939, Sandman took a lot of inspiration from Batman. He wore a suit and a cape. And just like Batman had a Batmobile, the Sandman has a Sandmobile. We're in the top 3 now. First up, we have Batman sitting in the 3rd spot. Here we are with the legend, the hero who inspired many others that came after him. DC introduced Batman in 1939, and over the years he became the face of it. The crime-fighting detective is so popular that even if you ask someone who doesn't know the difference between DC and Marvel, you would still know Batman. Thanks to his unprecedented popularity, the media has overused the character in almost all mediums. Batman has had a ton of live-action appearances, animated series, games, and even TV series. But even after all this, there were hardly ever any people complaining about it, and that's because the character is awesome, plain and simple. Another reason that people love Bruce Wayne is that he's relatable. He isn't someone who has superhuman powers or a backstory like Superman or Flash. He's just a normal guy who happens to be filthy rich. Using his intelligence and the power of money, he's developed gadgets that aid him in his combat, and that's pretty awesome. Batman is also famously known to possess the weaknesses of all the heroes that he works with. He does this to contain them in case any one of them changes sides or goes rogue. Followed by the Crimson Avenger at number 2. The Crimson Avenger may be one of the earliest superheroes, but he's never been famous because he has no unique features or powers. He does, however, have one special thing that no one else does. He's DC's first masked hero. Lee Travis was introduced in 1938, but because he is a mixture of Wesley Dodds and Batman, he never took off, and rightly so. His sedation technique is better utilized with the Sandman character, and his masked vigilante character is better adopted by Batman, even though he was first at doing both. Last but not least, we have Superman. Superman shares massive popularity with Batman. Kal-El, Clark Kent, and the last son of Krypton are some names that the superhero has come to be known by. He has close to no flaws, except for one, kryptonite. The green crystalline material originates from Superman's home planet and emits poisonous radiation that weakens Kryptonians. This is the reason why every time Superman has failed at the hands of his opponents, it is almost always because of kryptonite. Even Batman has used it against him. Remember when we talked about Batman possessing secrets to the weaknesses of all superheroes? Yep, that's what we were talking about. Superman made his first appearance in 1938 and has since appeared in multiple mediums consistently. That's a wrap for this video. Who is your favorite DC character? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.